Picture this. You walk into a coffee shop for a quick latte. It's early morning, you're tired, and you just want your caffeine fix. The barista takes your order, you swipe your card, and then it happens. The payment screen lights up with 3 glowing options: 15%, 20%, 25%. There's a custom button and a small no tip option tucked quietly in the corner. The barista is standing right there. The line behind you is growing. Suddenly, you feel like your $3 coffee has turned into a test of your generosity, your morals, and even your dignity. This moment, repeated millions of times every day across America, is what people are now calling Tipflation, the overwhelming spread of tipping expectations into nearly every transaction, whether service is involved or not. Traditionally, tipping in the U.S. was reserved for sit-down restaurants, bars, and services like taxis or haircuts. It was seen as a gesture of appreciation for good service. And for decades, tipping norms stayed relatively predictable. 15% was considered decent, 20% generous, and anything above that was exceptional. But in the age of digital payment systems, Square, Toast, Clover, iPads at every counter, the culture has changed. Suddenly, we are asked to tip for things that not long ago never required it. Coffee shops, bakeries, fast casual restaurants, airport kiosks, food trucks, even self-checkout lanes all have adopted digital tipping prompts. Some consumers are even reporting tip screens at car washes, convenience stores, and retail counters. The tipping screen, once rare, has become universal, and with its spread has come confusion, frustration, and resentment. The psychology is powerful. Payment platforms know exactly what they're doing. The default options are often set at 18%, 20%, or 25%. That means if you want to tip less, or not at all, you have to make an active choice to step out of the socially approved box. And it doesn't feel good. Social pressure kicks in. You don't want to look cheap in front of the worker or the other customers. You don't want to feel judged. And so, more often than not, you give in. For businesses, this is a win-win. They can keep base wages stagnant while relying on customers to fill the gap. For workers, the results are mixed. Some benefit from extra tips in jobs where tipping wasn't common before. But others find themselves caught in an awkward situation, unsure whether customers resent them for the request. It's worth asking, how did we get here? The pandemic played a big role. In 2020, when frontline workers were hailed as heroes, Americans tipped more generously out of gratitude. Restaurants struggled to survive, service jobs felt riskier, and consumers wanted to support them. But what began as solidarity turned into a habit, one that technology companies were quick to exploit. Today, tipping prompts feel less like an invitation and more like a demand. 15%, once considered generous, now looks like the bare minimum. Some systems even highlight the highest percentage in bold or bright colors, nudging you toward it. In many places, you can't even complete your purchase until you decide. The result? Consumers are tired. Surveys show Americans are tipping more often, but with less enthusiasm. What used to be an act of generosity now feels like an obligation. People feel manipulated, cornered by screens, and unsure of what's fair anymore. And this fatigue is sparking debate. Social media is full of people venting about tip screens everywhere. Complaints about being asked to tip at self-checkout stations have gone viral. Even mainstream media outlets have begun asking, is tipping culture out of control? The problem isn't just the frequency of tipping, it's the erosion of clarity. In a sit-down restaurant, the server depends on tips to survive. But when you're buying a bottled water from a cashier, who exactly is that tip supporting? Is it going to the worker, or is it being pooled or used by the company in ways you'll never see? This lack of transparency adds to the frustration. So here we are in the middle of a cultural shift. Americans are paying more, but feeling worse about it. The tipping trap is everywhere, and it's not going away anytime soon. But what does this mean for the people caught in the middle? For the customers, for the workers, and for the businesses that benefit? That's where the real story begins. The spread of Tipflation is more than an annoyance. It's reshaping how Americans interact with service, money, and even each other. For customers, the pressure is obvious. Each time a tip screen appears, it forces a decision. It's not just about money, it's about identity. Are you generous? Are you fair? Or are you the person who pressed no tip while the cashier looked on? This emotional manipulation makes transactions heavier than they should be. Buying a cup of coffee shouldn't feel like a moral test. And yet, millions of people go through this exact experience every day. Some give in out of guilt, others resist and feel awkward. Either way, the joy of small daily purchases, the coffee, the snack, the quick bite, has been quietly poisoned by a sense of resentment. Workers are caught in the middle. On one hand, many welcome the extra tips. In industries where wages have stagnated, every dollar helps. On the other hand, workers know that many customers feel annoyed by the constant requests. This tension can create uncomfortable dynamics. The customer feels pressured. The worker feels blamed for a system they didn't design. Meanwhile, companies benefit quietly. By implementing digital tip prompts, businesses can justify keeping wages low. After all, if customers are covering the gap, why increase base pay? Some businesses even market this as a way to empower workers or support staff, when in reality it shifts the cost of labor onto the consumer while keeping profits intact. This is why many critics argue that Tipflation is not just annoying, it's unfair. In most developed countries, service workers are paid fair wages without depending on tips. Tipping is optional, not mandatory. In the U.S., however, the system has expanded far beyond its original purpose, creating confusion and inequity. The backlash is growing. Polls show a majority of Americans believe tipping has gotten out of control. Stories of tip prompts appearing at self-checkout lanes or fast food drive-thrus spark outrage online. Consumers are starting to push back, with some deliberately pressing no tip to make a point. But even then, the experience leaves a sour taste. What makes this worse is the lack of transparency. Where do the tips actually go? In some cases, they're pooled across employees. In others, they're used to offset company expenses. Rarely are customers told exactly how their tip will be distributed. Without clarity, the act of tipping feels less like generosity and more like a guessing game. So, what's the solution? Some experts suggest that companies should raise wages and reduce reliance on tipping altogether. Others propose transparency, clear labeling that explains where tips go. And some argue that tipping culture needs to return to its roots, rewarding exceptional service, not subsidizing every minor transaction. But until change comes, consumers will remain trapped. They'll face the same glowing screens, the same awkward pauses, the same unspoken pressure. Workers will remain in limbo, benefiting from extra income but absorbing customers' frustration. And companies will keep enjoying a system that shifts responsibility away from them. Tipflation isn't just about money, it's about trust. When people feel coerced, they stop feeling generous. When tipping becomes expected everywhere, it loses its meaning everywhere. And in the long run, that hurts not only customers but workers too. So next time you find yourself at the counter staring at a digital screen that demands 25% for a muffin and a smile, know that you're part of a bigger story. Millions of Americans are wrestling with the same question. When did tipping stop being gratitude and start being an obligation? Because until businesses step up, until wages reflect reality, and until tipping culture resets, the tipping trap will only get tighter. And the cost isn't just in dollars, it's in the erosion of fairness, trust, and the simple joy of buying something without being made to feel guilty. The tip screen may be small, but the trap behind it is enormous. And for now, we're all caught inside.